It's incredibly likely that you're familiar with at least one example of Elizabethan theater. This era of theater showcased plays from iconic writers such as William Shakespeare and was the basis of media as we know it today. The time period often referred to as the Elizabethan era lasted from 1558 to 1603. This was the era when Queen Elizabeth I ruled over England. This period of time is known for its theater, however paintings and music also thrived during this time in history. The government in England was made up of three parts: the monarch, the Privy Council, and the Parliament. Queen Elizabeth was the head of the monarch, but she still needed approval from the Parliament before making any major decisions. Queen Elizabeth and King James were known to have loved the theater and supported it in every way that they could. She didn't attend many public plays, but she greatly enjoyed private shows and made it possible for many advances in the theater. Most early plays were religious and based off of traditional Bible stories. These shows were performed in churches and were fairly straightforward. They simply told the story. These shows were done in Latin and were directed toward an educated crowd. One major example of a play from this time is The Resurrection of Christ. While these plays may have been successful in the beginning and with a specific audience, people began to recognize that it was going to take more than this to hold the attention of a crowd. As more plays were written, the need for actors increased, and there were plenty to fill that demand. As it is today, actors had to be gifted in the area of not only memorization, but also in how they presented the lines. They had to speak quickly and clearly. In addition, they also had to be able to act with their entire bodies. They needed to express emotion. Some examples of the talented people who possessed these skills even over 400 years ago are Edward Alleyn and Richard Burbage. Obviously, all of these plays and actors needed an audience. During the Elizabethan age, the theater was still very new and exciting, so for the most part, the audience was incredibly patient and adoring. However, people in the audience could be very loud, disrespectful, or rude if they found the play to be boring. The backbone of these plays, even the boring ones, are the playwrights. Everyone is familiar with the work of William Shakespeare, but two other well-known playwrights were Thomas Kyd and Robert Greene. Thomas Kyd is known to be the father of revenge tragedy, a genre of theater that he started. His most famous work is called The Spanish Tragedy and is an inspiration for many other Elizabethan-era plays, including Shakespeare's Hamlet. Robert Greene wrote witty satirical pieces, including books, plays, and pamphlets. However, he was famous for the exciting life that he led. The last incredibly important piece of Elizabethan theater are the theaters themselves. The first ever theater was in London and was built in 1576 by an actor and just referred to as the theater. In the beginning, there were two kinds of theaters, the open-aired public theaters and the smaller, exclusive private theaters. By the time the Elizabethan era had ended, there were approximately 8 major theaters in England. The decline of Elizabethan theater came when Queen Elizabeth herself died in 1603. Elizabeth's cousin James took the throne, and while he still supported the theater, it simply wasn't the same. Theater switched from outdoor theaters to more private indoor theaters, and that same year the plague came and most theaters closed down. Despite these difficulties, the theater pursued and remained popular until 1642 when Purists came and ordered the theaters to be shut down. These are just a few interesting facts and examples from the amazing Elizabethan era of theater, which was one of the most impactful and most influential eras in history, and without it, life today just wouldn't be the same.